Hey there, I hope you're having a great day. For new players, I want to go over some basic combat reminders, and then I want to go over some new things that you can add to your game to make combat more exciting. It's very easy to fall into the trap and believe all you can do in combat is attack, or you need to use your bonus action, as if you don't max out your economy, you're losing the game. Or you fall into the other trap that you believe that all you can do is something that's on your character sheet. And none of this is true. You don't have to swing a sword or shoot a bow or cast a spell. You don't have to use the attack action. You can use the dodge. You can ready an action, help another player, run away from combat. You can do more than what's on your character sheet. Your character sheet is the foundation for creativity, not the controller for a video game. I had a friend play a mouseling rogue once against a young green dragon. I swiped the tail at him, giving him a dexterity saving throw, giving him the sense of dodging the tail without having to use a dodge action. He rolled a natural 20. I allowed him to grab onto the tail and swing and hang on the whole way until he was able to run up the tail, ate up all his movement, though it would have not based off the grid, ran up all the way at the back, did an acrobatics climb around the moonbeam that's centered on the dragon's back, got to the back of the dragon's head, and swiped his sword right into the back of the jaw, and the dragon shot up straight through the roof, blew the ceiling to pieces. He then fell back. The warlock used his reaction to shoot an eldritch blast, and his wife, playing a furbolg, caught the mouseling rogue. The dragon then flew up and around, shot the sword out of his jaw, and chased the players with its green, nasty, poisonous, icky, sticky breath. And it became one of the most epic fights our table has ever had. None of that really comes from the character sheet or the action economy. It comes down to, what do you want to do? You don't have to be the most creative person. You just got to communicate what you want to do and what are your intentions. And you can leave it up to your friends to add and make your idea greater. So if you're getting ready for your very first combat in D&D, there are some key words that you need to remember. First, initiative. When the DM calls for initiative, it means we're going into a turn-based game that is 6 seconds per round. And a round goes around the table. The initiative is using your dexterity checks to determine who goes first. There are other ways to run initiative, but this is what rules as written is. Often the DM will call for initiative if you, the player, attack a monster, or if the DM is playing a monster that attacks you. You have actions. These are your main things. These are attacking with a sword, casting a big spell. A bonus action is not guaranteed every turn. You don't have to try to fill it up. It is a bonus for a reason. It's for minor spells, rogues to have a special ability attached to it, or to utilize a class feature without burning up a full action. Your reaction, there's not many things in the game that utilize reaction, and there are some cool homebrews that add value to it. But the point of a reaction are two major things. One, when a monster runs away from you, you have the opportunity to attack them. And the second is using your action to ready an attack or ready a movement. You can only ready one thing, but readying it means you are going to do X when Y happens. And then there's your movement. Technically, you can run around as much as you want, move, attack, and then move again. Or you could be like me, I use my movement just once and use my attack just once. There's no judgment in under-optimizing your turn and not using every possible thing. These are tools to do what you want, not you have to do the things that are in front of you. We can talk about swords and spells and all the various things and effects that can happen there, but it is actually far more fun to learn while playing. So I'm gonna leave those details for you to learn while you play. There are abilities that monsters and villains have that allow them to do special actions not on their turn, or have more reactions, or automatically succeed a few saving throws that you might throw their way. And sometimes a dungeon master might reskin a monster for the sake of mixing it up or feeling more fresh or adding variety to your combat. That's generally it, and that's the fundamentals for D&D combat. Now let's jump gears for a second and talk about some more important things. This is a variant rule in 5e, but most TMs do allow this. I recommend trying to flank your baddies. Make sure that you and another ally are on the opposite sides of a creature, so that way you can get advantage on your melee attacks. This is a bit of a homebrew, but talk to your DM because it's really good. Similar to flanking for rangers and ranged spell attacks, it's great to have the high ground, where you go 10 or 15 feet above vertically, whether that's climbing rocks, climbing a tree, getting on a balcony or a rooftop, and you get advantage on the shot shooting down. In addition, make sure you can use cover. Cover can give you advantage on your attack and boost your AC, so it's harder to get hit. It's also really fun to play these tactical things cinematically, that your buddy is helping you get an advantage on the attack because you're surrounding the enemy, or you stealthily climb up to the top of the tree and become a sniper, or you hide behind little points of cover, crates, barrels, wagons, rocks, bushes, maybe even corpses, and surprise the enemy with a special advantage attack. And it might also protect you from a fireball. Don't be surprised if your DM is clever enough to use these tactics against you as well. A trap that a lot of players find themselves in, and a very difficult thing to get over, is describing your attacks and actions before you do them or before you roll. Something I like to do as a dungeon master is I ask my players to describe what they're going to do, such as make an attack. Describe it as if you know it's going to be a critical hit, and that is what you're hoping to be. And then you roll and you gamble that amazing creative idea. The bonus of doing that is you excite other players around the table because you invested so much into this roll. They're more excited to see what the roll outcome is. And because you gave the DM such a great, flavorful description, rather than the DM saying you miss if you roll low, the DM can take your idea, reshape it, and give you a new one because you gave the Dungeon Master a foundation of creativity to add to yes and. At first, some of my players didn't really like this because they didn't want to put creative energy into a role that didn't turn out well. But when I broke it down to them that as a dungeon master, it helps me give more flavorful descriptions to their ideas, and that the point of it is to trust me that I'm not just going to drop the ball and say, bleh, you wasted your creativity. It's a trusting exercise. It's a conversation. It is one of the funnest parts of the game. And if you deliver on this, every single attack, every single thing that you want to do before you have to roll, you're going to be the dungeon master's favorite player. Now, I have a simple rule at my table that you might not like, or some people might not like, but I don't roll damage and I don't let the players roll damage. There's a few reasons for this, and I'm going to quickly try to cover them. I don't roll damage. Instead, I use half the damage die plus the modifier. That's it. It's a static, consistent damage. And for critical attacks, I do max damage. There are homebrews out there that do max damage plus rolls. That's a lot. That is a lot of damage. But when you're doing consistent, even damage, what you're doing is you're removing that chance of rolling really high on the attack, but then rolling extremely low on the damage, and you follow up a great feeling with a bad feeling. It's actually more satisfying to have a consistent damage output with a big win on criticals than just barely doing anything. Another reason why I stick to this is I believe, and I see it around in the RPG space, is that there is a movement towards either always hitting on attacks and then rolling for damage, or rolling for attacks and having consistent damage. One or the other. This is kind of becoming a new wave for RPGs because it's removing one of the dice rolls that just kind of get in the way of creativity. But if my player wants to roll on Fireball or Lightning Bolt that have like a pool of Yahtzee dice, I'm totally open for it because rolling that many dice is part of the fun at the table. Another thing is to consider using your action to make a Wisdom, Charisma, or Intelligence check in the middle of combat, instead of making attacks. Explain to your Dungeon Master that the intention is to learn more about the monster. Learn the monster's AC, learn more about its hit points, learn some vulnerabilities or weaknesses and immunities, so that way you can communicate to the rest of the party more tactical ways and more efficient ways to attack the monster. For example, red dragons are immune to fire. A Dungeon Master can reskin a red dragon and make it something else, and making one of these rolls on that monster might save your party from a TPK. Now, personally, I would argue that those kinds of checks should actually be a bonus action, but it's up to your table. One homebrew to consider is to take a shield, and rather than having it be a static +2 to your armor class, is that it's a +3 to a single attack as a reaction, so you can block. Or take the dodge action and turn it into a reaction that players can use to react and dodge to a big hit, without changing it for rogues that can also do it as a bonus action. And then a very important thing, especially for healers in your party, it's often more efficient to prevent damage than it is to recover HP from damage. For example, it makes more sense to cast Aid and give temporary hit points, mage armor to your characters than it will be to cast Healing Word or Cure Wounds on your teammates, because healing in 5e is super underpowered compared to the damage output. In 1D&D, they are doubling all the dice for HP currently. I personally turned everything into hit dice. Healing potions resemble the hit die of the drinker. D4 spells is 1 hit die, D6 spells are 2 hit die, and D8 spells are 3 hit die, equal to the receiver's hit die. So I hope these simple basics, plus some interesting things to think about on how to make combat more exciting or brew it up to be more interesting if it gets too stale, all appeals to you and your table. Share this with your dungeon master and your fellow friends around the table. I hope you have fun playing D&D with your friends. My name's Carmichael, and I'll see you next time.